And someone actually said, if ever you're feeling a little bit down in the dumps about something, go to Sparkle Darkness, it'll soon cheer you up, and it's absolutely right.
Have you got an old school hat? Like straw, it's got to be straw, a school hat. You ask your dad when you go back next time, bring a hat, okay? An old school hat, okay, that we can use to practice with, and we'll probably use it in the routine, all right? And when you bring it, we'll bash it. I says, Dad, I've got to have a hat, I've got to have my school hat, I've got to take my school hat, a straw hat, and Miss Pounder's going to bash it. Cut it all up a bit, you know, and she cut and pulled all the stuff off, and then she bashed it and put it on the floor and banged her feet on it and jumped on it and bashed it and then put it on her head, then she put it on my head and she looked at me and she says, now, you know, give it a bit more of a bash. So I thought, this is good, I can bash the hat too, which I did, and it turned out like that, which was terrific because that's still the hat from all those years ago and it hangs on my wall. When you did soft shoe, song and dance soft shoe, when I was a kid at 8 and 9 years of age, from Miss Betty Powder, something I'd never seen before. She says, now I had Wendy Paul. Do you all remember Wendy Paul? She was playing the piano. We're rehearsing now. Now we're going to do some steps. And she goes, Pounder goes, no, what is all this business? It's all going like this and that.
That's what Sean did on our wedding night.
It was fantastic, and from then on I loved and more to dance, all because of Betty Pounder and the bashed hat.
Mum did actually say that she had a program from the Desert Song 1943 with your name in it. The costumes always play a very important part of every production, and I thought it might be a bit of fun just to relive some of those costume moments again. And just one of the Cockney boys from the original My Fair Lady. And of course, one of the Ascot dresses also from the 1959 version. What are you wearing?
I'm wearing your jacket from Gypsy.
And how thrilled, Trent, you must be to be wearing it. Thank you very much. Thanks so much. We'll be careful with the jacket, won't you? And from South Pacific, we have Melanie Hillman singing Cockeyed Up from us. If you'd like to welcome Mel, please.
When the skies are bright canary yellow, I forget every cloud I've ever seen. So they call me a cockeyed optimist, pure and incurably green. I have heard people rant and rave and bellow that we're done and we might as well be dead. But I'm only a cockeyed optimist, and I can't get it into my head. I hear the human race is falling on its face and hasn't very far to go. But every whippoorwill is selling me a bill and telling me it just ain't so. I could see life is just a bowl of jello and appear more intelligent and smart. But I'm stuck like a dope with this thing called hope, and I can't get it out of my heart. Not this
And now, live from Her Majesty's Theatre in Melbourne, fresh off the stage in a musical that no one under the age of 25 would ever even have heard. From the J.C. Williamson Chorus, will you please welcome Mr. Neville Burns, Mr. Peter Foe, Mr. Michael White, Miss Nancy Hayes, Miss Gillian Hott, Miss Isabel Ryan, Miss Judith Roberts, and Miss Laurel, any fruit you can fruit, I can fruit better.
Well, we're a small representation of some of Pounder's dances, circa 1959 to, I think the last show I worked on with her was Annie in 79. So 20 years, which is fantastic, and what a fabulous 20 years they were. We were lucky to be part of an era that changed the style of musical theatre, which meant that we had the opportunity to not only be one of Pounder's dancers, but to then be in shows that allowed us to sing and to act. And to finally be given leading roles as Australians in Australia. The wonderful thing about working with Pounder was that she never stopped learning and she never stopped teaching. And she moulded us and championed us with the managements. It wasn't easy, but she kept sending back letters, and I've had the privilege of reading them, because Soon Actress and Laurel and Gail had collected a lot of her personal things, and we went through letters where she said that Jill Perryman could play Funny Girl, and I could do Sweet Charity, and many others, Tiki for Pajama Game, and all of those things. She wrote back to the managements championing us at the time. But she didn't have the privilege of working with the original choreographers like Bob Fosse and Gal Champion. She learnt the shows from a seat in the theatre. She had this ability to notate what was on stage, what she was seeing, which is not easy when you're doing it the other way around. Is that the left foot? She's on the right foot. But also she had a great ability to make friends with the Broadway gypsies, who absolutely adored her and told her all the fine details of how things were done. And they very much admired her and respected her and looked forward to her visits to New York. Now, I had an early connection with Pounder because my dancing teacher was Hazel Meldrum, who had been a very strict ballet mistress with J.C. Williamson's in the Moncrief days. And when I was learning dancing from Hazel Meldrum, Pounder would visit the studios. And it was like, you know, as Joan said, or as Kevin said, God coming into our midst. And that's when I first saw Betty Pounder. And she chose me to go into My Fair Lady some years later. But the best part of the evening was later in the night when we'd all had a few sparklings, and she would say, I will now teach you all the military tap from Desert Song. We will learn the totem ballet from Rosemary. We will learn Your Eyes, a shade of deeper blue from the White Horse Inn, numbers from Maid of the Mountains, and many more. And we would dance around that lounge room for hours. And I tell you now, I worked at the VCA last year and I taught the kids the military tap. But there was always this one phrase that she would say to us whenever we got a bit sort of, complacent or cushioning a few disappointments. And we will now all say it in the way she trained us, working as one. And a 5, 6, 7, 8. Smarten yourselves up!
A bit smart there, actually. The Embassy Ball, an original Embassy Ball. Janice Godfrey's finale dress. No. Well, that's what we're calling it tonight. Yes? It is half a sixpence. a lot of the abilities. Brian Buggy couldn't make it along tonight. So, but to beat it out, we plot to have, for it's so dreary not to have that certain thing called Doug Kingsman.
My experience with Pounder was way back then. I sang for, I think it was the touring company, for the follow-up of Pyjama Gang. Bruce Henrys and I were the youngest members. Bruce got in, he was a dancer. And I sang, and I was asked to come back the next day. And my mum said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I've been to the old Empire, and I've been asked to come back tomorrow to sing again. Maybe I'll get a job in the chorus of the show." And she said, "I don't think so." She said, "I worked so bloody hard to get you this job that you're working in now, and you're going to go back to it." So I went back to my Uncle George's hand beef shop. But years later, I did eventually get to audition for Pounder for Annie Chigana. I did work for her as a designer when we did production of The Salad Days, where Pounder choreographed and directed. So this is a letter for a tribute to Pounder from Brian Buggy. Among my fondest memories of working at the Match, sometimes between 1959 and 74, were the regular encounters with Dame Betty. How appropriate now her title. As usually, well above, ahead of her time, like so many of us in the business, I was very young and received some TLC, good counsel, and occasional reprimands as needed. It was my good fortune, thanks to mentoring by Terry Vaughan, another great friend and associate of Pounders, to work with Betty in Melbourne, starting with some great musicals. Colleagues Gabriel Joff, Noel Smith, Dale Ringland, and later Peter Casey also shared this pleasure. I mentioned being young. In fact, I celebrated my 21st birthday on tour in Brisbane conducting Bye Bye Birdie. This was my very first show, and along with the excitement, I remember with great affection and care Pounder showed to all of the youngsters in the cast, and the warmth and respect we all felt for her. In those days, JCW's was allowed to reproduce Broadway shows with the accent on the re element. Nothing too different from the way it was done over there. Despite it, Pounder managed to introduce, promote and cast such legends as Jill Perryman, Nancy Hayes, the Geraldines Turner and Morrow, Richard Lanahan, the Honorary Oz, Hayes Gordon, Johnny Farnham and many, many others after my time, along with a host of fine actors, singer, dancers, supporting and surpassing guest stars. Pounder had a great eye for detail and would return from Broadway or the West End with copious notes for every aspect of the production we were about to stage, not just the choreography. Between her fine memory and exquisite taste, she dressed our sets and had them lit with panache and many more lumens than allocated by the creative Czar of Dark, Mel Condor, and his lovable ladder leading assistant, Rupert. Her memory was amazing, and her capacity to tailor-make and improve on the overseas product made the overseas models look like the ones opening off-Broadway. Exhibition Street was Broadway. She was loved and respected by stage and lighting crews, props, wardrobe, front of house management, producers, directors, and musicians. But her greatest passion was for her dancers. They were her family. With fondest regards, God bless you, Pounder, Brian Buggy.
Everyone's favourite girl from the forum, Miss Judith Roberts.
I contacted Robina Beard to let her know that this was happening, and she was most disappointed that she couldn't make it, so she sent this little note that she wanted me to read. Robina met Pounder in 1955 when she auditioned for Can-Can, and Pounder then went on to be ballet mistress of Can-Can for the next 2 years. I met Robina in 1961 when I did my first show with Williamson's, which was the Sentimental Bloke over there at the Comedy Theatre. I am desolate that I am not there with you all to remember Miss Pounder. In true gypsy spirit, I am working. There will never be another Pounder. She was unique in the history of our profession because there will never be another J.C. Williamson's.
She was the lifeblood of the firm for a very long time. She was our mother, mentor, teacher, our shoulder to cry on, a wonderful friend, and she really did teach us how to sparkle darlings. She looked upon her dancers as the children she never had, and looked after us all accordingly. I was in Munich when she died, and Clive and I had a glass of champagne for her in the Residence Theatre in the Palace, a fitting place for such a princess. She will always be with me.
I was fortunate enough to do 3 here and 1 over the road at the comedy, and just loved every minute of the highlight of my life, I think. And it was due to Pounder, another one who thanks her for making my life, because my first job was in a chemist shop in Hawthorne, and my mother let me go and work even though I had to cross the road. One of the customers who used to come in was Mr. Baines, and he used to come in and collect prescriptions for Mrs. Pounder. And he came in and he said, were you on television last night? And I said, yes. And he said, well, my wife saw you and she wants a girl about your height for Hello Dolly. And you've got the right sort of voice, and so would you come in and audition? And I was so thrilled. And of course, Pounder looked after me ever after that. And Kevin has just asked me if I will, and I'm very privileged to be doing this. It's a message from Donna Lee, and she's on behalf of Gloria Dawn. Well, here I am up here, and just loving what I'm seeing happening there in my hometown at my favourite theatre, the beautiful Madge, a night in honour of my dearest friend, Miss Betty Pounder. My last show that we worked on together there was the wonderful production of Gypsy. Because of the mutual respect that we had for each other, we knew that any project we worked on together was going to be both great and joyous, and it truly always was. It is great to see that thread of respect and joy still continuing on. Have a wonderful night in honour of this wonderful lady. Whoops, here she comes now. She is saying, Gloria, did you tell them to sparkle, darlings? So I am now telling you all, sparkle, darlings, and enjoy. And that's
Another song. Brenda Clark and Marty Grimwood will be singing Small World from Gypsy.
Honey, you're a stranger.